Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Jnanatirandasya
Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Katamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Bhagavatam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Karunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pavanam Sahagana Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tadakanchanurani Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchadalpadalubhayascha Kripa Sindhu Vijayavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshakarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasani Gaurabhakta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So we'll chant the invocations of Chaitanya Caritamrita today. Repeat. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So with all your permission, I thought we could discuss a little bit from Chaitanya Caritamrita today. Is that okay? Everybody is sumptuously fed. Enthusiastic kirtan. Maybe the most enthusiastic Mangalashana recitation in years. So must be some good formula for that. Very nice. So we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enjoyed many pastimes. But one of the most awaited pastimes in which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu celebrated with all of his associates was Rathyatra. So what do you think we'll discuss today? How about some Rathyatra? Shall we discuss Rathyatra? So we know here in Detroit and all across the world, we are seeing Rathyatra festivals go on, and we are relishing here in Detroit for a Michigan Rathyatra to take place on August 15th. It is the most blissful of blissful festivals. Everything, Prabhupada said that every day should be a festival, and that is true. And this Rathyatra festival seems to be like the pinnacle. So many wonderful experiences, and it goes back in time to so much history of this Rathyatra festival. So we know when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he took sannyas, the leading of all the associates of Navadvip was similar to when Krishna and Balaram left Vrindavan and boarded a chariot of Akrura and went to Mathura. Like that, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left Navadvip, there was great pains of separation. These are not like material pains when we cut ourselves. There's pains. These spiritual pains are actually great bliss in separation from our beloved. Our love actually intensifies. And as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went out to really propagate this Harinam Sankirtana movement, he invited the residents of Navadvip to come and visit with him once a year. And what was that time? Once a year they could come and visit him? During the Rathyatra festival. So it was a huge celebration. Every year, all the residents from Navadvip would organize a great procession party, and they would carry out many wonderful pastimes on the way itself to Jagannath Puri. And of course, when they reached, it was a grand festival. So this was a very festive time and a very joyous time. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes in a couple of different chapters about this festival. We'll read today from chapter 13. Chapter 12 is the cleansing of the Gundicha temple, which maybe we'll discuss next week, that pastime. Very important pastime because we'll be having our own Gundicha cleaning seva in 2 weeks' time on the 31st of July. So maybe we'll wait 2 weeks to discuss. We'll see. But that pastime is the cleansing of the temple in which Lord Jagannath will reside after coming in the chariot procession from his temple, the main home. So that's the chapter 12. So chapter 13, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is describing the Lord's dancing at Rathyatra. Now there are many amazing features of this pastime of the Lord's dancing at Rathyatra. We know when you ask devotees, what is your favorite part of Rathyatra? Many will say the kirtan and dancing. What's number 2 on the list? Prasadam. Always. It's 1 or 2. 1A and 1B we can call it. Right? That is the norm. So this dancing festival is very, very sweet. But as I mentioned, there are many sort of interwoven pastimes within this dancing of the Lord at Rathyatra. And the whole Chaitanya Caritamrita is presented to us as a way for us to learn how to practice devotional service. In particularly the mood of devotional service that is most beneficial and conducive to us. And through the narration of so many of these pastimes, we learn how to find the right mood, and what is the benefit of obtaining that pure mood in our devotion. What is the benefit? Anyone knows? Purification.
We can serve better.
We can serve better.
And Krishna will be pleased.
Krishna will be definitely pleased. And what's in it for us? I want to know what's in it for me.
Happiness.
Happiness. actually the taste of devotional service, the sweetness in devotional service is relished when our mood in devotional service is right. When we are practicing devotional service, and sometimes, that sweetness is elusive. It escapes us a little bit. And so by studying some of these pastimes, we get to set our mood in a very sweet way. And we have like a jam-packed series of festivals coming between, we have our picnic tomorrow, then we have a couple of weeks, we have Rathyatra, then 2 weeks later Rathyatra, then like a week later Balram Jayanti, then a week later Krishna Janmashtami, then we have Prabhupada's 125th Vyas Puja, then we have Radhastami. It is like a non-stop opportunity to embrace our relationship with Krishna. And sometimes we wonder, we talk about the spiritual world is full of bliss, Vaikuntha, no miseries. How do we know? Well, these festivals are an opportunity for us to gain a glimpse into what is life like in the spiritual world, if we apply the right mood. And if we really want to experience the bliss of these festivals, what is the best thing we can do in general terms in these festivals? You really want the sweetest of sweetest experiences. Service. And it's very counterintuitive, right? Nobody wants to go to a party and be the servant in the party. What do we want to do? We want to enjoy, right? But like this, the material world is completely opposite the spiritual world. If you really want to enjoy these festivals, you'll see. You go in service and you'll find like extraordinary bliss beyond what you could have even calculated on your own. So let's see, we have a very instructive pastime about how to approach our service in Rathyatra, and a very wonderful person who's going to set an example for us. Anybody want to guess who that may be? Babaji knows because he was here when I gave this last discussion. Anybody know who we're going to talk about today? Any guess? King Prataparudra. Yes. So read text 18. It reads as follows. Mahaprabhu Sukha Paila Se Seva Dekite Mahaprabhu Ra Kripa Haila Se Seva Haite. Translation. Upon seeing the king engaged in such menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. Simply by rendering this service, the king received the mercy of the Lord. Purport: by his divine grace, E.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada. Unless one receives the mercy of the Lord, he cannot understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead or engage in his devotional service. A devotee who has received even a small fraction of the mercy of the Lord can understand him. Others may engage in theoretical speculation to understand the Lord, but they cannot know anything about him. Although Maharaj Prataparudra was very eager to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Lord refused to see him. But when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw the king engaged in menial service for Lord Jagannath, he became very happy. Thus the king became eligible to receive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy. If a devotee accepts Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the universal Guru and Lord Jagannath as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, of Krishna, he is benefited by the combined mercy of Krishna and Guru. That is stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in his instructions to Rupa Goswami, where he says, Brahmana Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasade Paya Bhakti Lata Vija. The seed of devotional service fructifies and becomes a transcendental creeper. Finally, it reaches the lotus feet of the Lord in the spiritual sky. This seed is obtained by the mercy of the Lord and the Guru. By the Lord's mercy, one gets the association of a bona fide Guru. And by the mercy of the Guru, one gets a chance to render devotional service. Devotional service, the science of Bhakti Yoga, carries one from this material world to the spiritual world. So what does devotional service do? Carries one from? So we don't board one of the SpaceX spaceships No? That's not going to help us? No. We're going to get there only by devotional service. And where do we get the seed of devotional service? Guru. And where do we get Guru? Krishna. So, Prabhupada writes, if one accepts Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the universal Guru and Lord Jagannath as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he's like Guru and Krishna. Of course, Krishna is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath. So, we see here a lot of wonderful pastimes going to happen. So, King Prataparudra, he had a strong desire to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, not an ordinary king. King Prataparudra was a king of Orissa, a very opulent land, a very pious land. He was a very powerful person, very wealthy, big palaces, servants. And in that state of mind, what do we typically see in relationship to desires in devotional life? Is it very easy to be spiritually centered amidst such opulence?
No.
We find ourselves lost in the illusion of I am powerful, I am famous, I am rich, I have this position and status, right? So in those situations, we see actually it becomes very difficult to practice devotional service. But King Prataparudra had a strong desire. So that is the first of many indications we're going to see of his qualification in devotional service. Right? We have many obstacles. King Prataparudra had many obstacles. And his obstacles were, he's a pretty busy person, huh? Lots of work, lots of distractions, lots of responsibilities, lots of things. But he remained staunch in his desire. And how strong was his desire? When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, I'll not meet him. And then another devotee would come, I'll not meet him. Another devotee would ask, on behalf, please meet this king. He's very pious, very saintly, very sweet, very learned, all his qualities. No, don't ask me again. Finally, his approach. He said, if you ask me again, I'll leave here forever. Don't ask me. I'm not going to meet this king. So what did King Prataparudra do? He said, well, I tried. I did my best. What can I do? He was ready to give up even his position as king. He was ready to even give up his life. Thinking, if I can't meet the Lord, what is the purpose? So his determination was very staunch and very strong. And it's an important lesson for us that to make success in devotional life, we need some determination. Rupa Goswami says, Utsahan. One must be determined. Right? So we will face some obstacles, some challenges. But King Prataparudra was very determined. Now, why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not want to meet him? Sounds like nice qualities. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Mahavadanaya, most merciful. He told Lord Nityananda, you go and meet people like Jagai and Madai and deliver them. So now why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would not meet? He's refusing to meet King Prataparudra. Why is he doing that? What do you think?
He's a sannyasi and trying to avoid the kingly association.
But he's a pure sannyasi. He's never going to become contaminated. He'll never fall from his path. So why would he? Huh?
He wants to.
But he wants to set an example.
Yes. He is setting an example to us. Well, I'm not a sannyasi, so does that mean that it doesn't apply to me and you and all of us? What is the lesson Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving us by refusing to meet King Prataparudra?
So dangerous.
What is dangerous?
Association. Materialistic.
Association. is teaching us the importance of good association and bad association. Both are equally important. Because as Prabhupada explains in this verse, that our bhakti, it may grow and grow for years and decades, but it remains a creeper. A creeper is like a vine. A vine is very fragile. One slip of the scissors, gone. A tree, when it grows and matures, it becomes very thick rooted. And you push it, it's not going to fall. When a tree is young, it's flimsy, right? So as it grows, but bhakti is not described as a tree. It's described as a creeper. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to explain in chapter 19 coming up that to protect that creeper, we should put a fence around it. Like any new plant you put a fence around it. And what is that fence of our bhakti? Association. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us that we should be careful of our association. Because good association will help propel us and inspire us in bhakti. But bad association will dampen all of our effects and even can destroy them. Okay? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing that we should be very careful with our association. We are very careful to protect the association of our children, of our loved ones. But sometimes we forget about ourselves and what we allow ourselves to associate. Okay? So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is showing that. But as we'll see, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being Lord Krishna himself, is all-knowing. So he knows the real heart and mood of King Prataparudra. So externally he is showing this resistance to meeting. But let us see actually how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets King Prataparudra. So in this verse we see that King Prataparudra was engaged in a service. What was he doing? What service he was doing? Sweeping the streets. Now, if you go onto Indeed and you look at all the jobs, where would street sweeper rank in the jobs? High? One of the top jobs?
Bottom.
Bottom. One of the lower jobs. It is not a high-ranking position, right? So what is the salary of such a job? Low, right? Let's see what is the salary that King Prataparudra received for his job of sweeping the streets. So the king, you can see his mood of service. That he was a royal king. He could have ordered 100 people to come and sweep the streets. Thousands. Doesn't matter. He had no limit of service. But what did he do? He himself came. And he understood, I may be some king, maybe powerful by material means, but in the presence of the Supreme Lord, I am a tiny, insignificant servant of the Lord. And so he personally sprinkled perfumed water on the street and began to sweep the street with great humility. And what is it that attracted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? What attracted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu seeing this service? He was sincerely performing a menial service that really caught Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's eyes. So there's the humility in which the service he was doing. He wasn't so fond of, oh wow, he's an expert street sweeper. He's removed every last particle of dust in the road. What was he impressed with? The mood of that service that King Prataparudra was performing. Indicative for us. Krishna is going to look at our service, not in what we are actually doing, but the mood in which we are doing it. He's not looking at the chapati, whether it is burned, whether it has perfect edges, it's fluffy or not. He is looking at the ingredient of love that's in that chapati. That is what Krishna is looking to taste and relish. So when we perform our service, we should be very mindful of the most important ingredient in that service. That is what's important. And King Prataparudra had perfected that ingredient and is very humbly serving the Supreme Lord. And so while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had staunchly refused, vehemently refused to meet King Prataparudra, he says, upon seeing the king engaged in such menial service, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became very happy. So how can we please Krishna, Lord Jagannath, Lord Balaram, Mother Subhadra, Srila Prabhupada? How can we please? Doing nice service in a humble mood. That is very, very pleasing. So we want proof, right? How do we know? Okay, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said he was pleased, but what proof do we have? Right? We said the compensation for street sweeper and indeed is not so high. But let's see what happens. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as the procession was beginning, he had organized very elaborate and intricate kirtan parties. Like we had a very festive kirtan to kick off today's discussion. There he had arranged world-class kirtaniyas. And he had how many kirtan parties? Remember? 7. He had 7 kirtaniya parties. And he had a lead singer in each one. He had 5 reciters who were following. He had mridanga players, 1 dancer in each party. And it was all very elaborately arranged. And some of the great personalities, Advaita Acharya, Haridas Thakur were some of the dancers, Swarup Damodar, Mukundan were some of the singers. You can imagine these kirtan parties were out of this world. And each kirtan party was proceeding in great ecstasy. And we can imagine what is the desire of each kirtan party? What one desire they might have? They wanted Mahaprabhu with them. Right? Just like when we are doing some service, maybe when our spiritual master comes, we want our guru to be with us, right? In that very sweet mood. So all the kirtan parties wanted Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to be with them. So what did Chaitanya Mahaprabhu do? Bounce from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 and came back? No. He expanded himself and actually he was dancing in each and every one of the kirtan parties. And he was dancing so exquisitely. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami explains that this dancing was so beautiful that the hearts of the onlookers became instantly purified just seeing the beauty of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dance during the Rathyatra festival. They immediately became purified. They were experiencing ecstatic symptoms of love just watching this very beautiful display of dancing. One area, Krishna Goswami explains that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was spinning so fast, he looked like a fireman. If you have a stick with a fire on the end and you spin it really fast, it looks like a ring of fire. Right? Like that, he was spinning so fast and beautifully, it was like a ring of bliss. Like this, many descriptions are given. But nobody could see that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had expanded himself into all 7 parties, but for a few very, very select devotees. And take a wild guess, who was one of those devotees who could see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in all 7 kirtan parties? King Prataparudra. The same king that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu externally forbade and said, no, I'll never see him. He bestowed this very special mercy upon him. that he was able to see. Just seeing once was completely overwhelming. Imagine seeing all 7 dancing features or dancing forms of the Lord. How ecstatic that would have been. And many of the close, intimate associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they could not see this. They were not awarded this mercy. But King Prataparudra was awarded this very, very special mercy. Why? Because he was a king? Because he had some influence and power? Why? His mood of service. His mood of service was so pleasing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed this very rare fortune. But that's not it. So as the procession was continuing, and the procession is going on, Krishna Goswami describes a very sweet interaction between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath. So we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is coming in the mood of Srimati Radharani. And this pastime of Lord Jagannath in Rathyatra originates, or one of the features of it, is that when the residents of Vrindavan met Krishna for the first time after a long time in Kurukshetra. And there the gopis had seated Krishna on a chariot and began to pull them back to Vrindavan, saying, come back where you belong. So like this, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is dancing, it's so ecstatic and overwhelming. Who's watching also? Lord Jagannath. Lord Jagannath stops his cart and he is just in awe of watching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dance in the kirtan. Now Krishna's Goswami says, there's some irony here. This is Krishna watching himself. Right? This is Lord Jagannath watching himself, Krishna, in the form of devotee, dance. Yet it was so spectacular that even the ruff of Lord Jagannath would not budge. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was just ecstatically dancing, and Lord Jagannath was in ecstasy watching this sweet pastime. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was thinking, Lord Jagannath, does he really see me? Does he really know me? So once the procession started going forward, he would go to the back of the cart and just to see. And so Lord Jagannath would say, oh, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is testing me to see if I'll go forward without him. Like, would Krishna go forward without his beloved Srimati Radharani? So Lord Jagannath would stop his cart. And he would stop and wait. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would think, oh, is it a coincidence? Let's see if I go forward. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would run forward and keep running. And see, is he coming back behind me? And and Lord Jagannath would continue. Like this, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Jagannath are exchanging very sweet, loving relationships. And Krishna's Goswami Maharaj is explaining this to him. He's saying actually nobody in the crowd, audience, could understand this exchange. But somehow by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he is explaining it to all of us in this chapter 13. Which if you so desire, please read this chapter. It's very, very sweet, this exchange. So after some time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is dancing and going into ecstatic kirtan and whatnot. And at one point, he faints and falls in the street. Now we know Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme controller. He is Ishvara Parama Krishna. Right? So we know when he faints in ecstasy, it is also an exhibition of his mood. But when he fainted, there was no one there to catch him. But one very fortunate devotee. And who was that devotee?
King.
Advaita Acharya, Lord Nityananda, Swarup Damodar, they're all engaged elsewhere. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it was King Prataparudra. We understand this was only the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu choosing to fall into the arms of King Prataparudra, to give him this very intimate opportunity to render service to him. Why he got that opportunity? What?
He desired first.
Huh?
He was desiring.
Strong desire and then great mood of service. So much happy Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was. But when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, oh, who has caught me? He saw the king. He externally said, oh! And he became upset. So externally he is showing to all of us, don't be loose with your association. But of course, internally he was so pleased. And a little while later, the procession continued. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, being very tired, entered into a small, beautiful garden off the main road. And there, he laid down on an elevated platform. And Sarvabhuma Bhattacharya tells King Prataparudra, now's your chance. And he said, change your clothes. And so the king changed all his royal outfits for simple Vaishnava attire. And he went into this garden and began to press the feet of the Supreme Lord. Now, this is very, very instructive for us. When King Prataparudra wanted to have association with the Lord, what do you think he could have asked of the Lord? Would he have been able to ask this type of exchange? He would have asked for simple exchange. Please let me bow at your feet, receive your blessings. Right? But because King Prataparudra was performing his service with no expectation of anything in return, he was not sweeping the streets. Is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looking at me? Look, I'm sweeping. Somebody got it on Facebook, load it up. He was not doing his service that way. He was doing his service purely out of love. And it shows that when we serve Krishna with no expectation in return, actually he reciprocates many more times than what we could have even reasonably asked for. King Prataparudra in his wildest imagination never could have said, oh, let me see you dancing in 7 kirtan parties. He could have never said, let me meet you in a garden off the main road privately and massage your feet while you were in a deep state of slumber and ecstasy. He could have never even dreamt of such mercy. So it shows to us, instead of putting all of our demands to the Lord, our long list of what we want, if we just go to the Lord and render service, no, He will reciprocate in ways way beyond whatever we can dream up on a piece of paper or in our hearts. Because Krishna's reciprocation for that unmotivated service is beyond compare. Sometimes when we do our service and we wonder, I didn't get the credit for this, or this person did acknowledge that I did the service, or this. We should always remember who is witnessing our service in
Krishna,
all times.
Krishna.
He is sitting in our heart. But He is not observing the external service. Unfortunately, sometimes we have to face up. He is observing our mood in that service. But when that mood is ripe and pure, we can see the reciprocation. That King Prataparudra in this garden began to massage the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then he began to recite some prayers, some verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went into ecstasy again, seeing the sweetness. And there we see another indication of King Prataparudra's devotion. That the Supreme Lord Himself was very pleased to hear verses about Himself, of course. This is from 10th canto He was reciting. But because it was coming from the mouth of one of His pure devotees, it became very, very pleasing. So, King Prataparudra, by his humble service, obtained the greatest of all mercy. He had this vision of seeing the 7 forms that nobody else could see, virtually nobody else, only a few could see. Yeah, or able to personally hold Him in his hands, and then being able to massage His feet. So we see the power of devotional service. He didn't do anything. He didn't decorate the chariot. He wasn't offering arti to the Lord. He wasn't doing what we define as high services. He was sweeping the street. And that service had the potential, when done purely, to receive the mercy nobody else received in Rathyatra festival. Nobody received this extent of mercy that King Pratapurudha had. So we see the power of devotional service. And our mood in devotional service is so important. We establish hierarchies of service. I like this service. But Krishna doesn't look at it that way. Actually, in our discussion last week, we were discussing this point. How can we understand that this menial service is more pleasing to Krishna? Well, simply like this. If your friend is having a party at his house, or let's say let's put it ourselves as the host. We are hosting a party. Okay? And you have some different services. One is to greet the guests. One is to sample all the foods to know which is good, which is not. One is to maybe play the music. And one is to clean the toilets. Now we know some services all of our friends would be willing to do. But to clean the toilets, actually, only someone who really loves us would do that service. And as the host, if one of our friends was doing that service, how would we feel about that relationship? We would feel, wow, this person really is a true friend. So Krishna appreciates all of our services. But when we do the services that no one else is running to do, Krishna knows, okay, they're doing it truly out of their love for me. Not out of their love for what they want to do, but out of the love for me. And imagine how Krishna will reciprocate. We see Krishna's reciprocation right in front of us with King Pratapurudha. So we may create hierarchies in service. But remember, Krishna knows. One who's willing to do the service that others are not willing to do, that is even most pleasing to me. So we can try to approach our service. Yes, following the things that we may have some interest in, that's okay. But also thinking, how I can please Krishna. Keep that in the center of our service. Don't worry about any other external features. Just simply, what can please the Supreme Lord? And in that way, Krishna will reciprocate in ways beyond. And those who have served in Rathyatra festival have experienced this many, many times over. And an extraordinary reciprocation of the Supreme Lord. Sometimes what we deem to be the even smallest of service, Krishna's views as the greatest of all things possible. So we have an opportunity. It is actually a great fortune. What right we have. If you wanted to go render service at the White House, can you do it? You can't just go and say, hey, I'm here to serve dinner to the president's guests. You can't do that. But you can go and serve dinner to Lord Jagannath's guests? How is that possible? How is that possible? Only by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and Guru Prabhupada. That the Supreme Lord, the Lord of the universe, Lord Jagannath, is hosting this grand party, and we can perform virtually any service. We have so many different varieties of service you can perform. And they're there for us. And I'll conclude with one final comment on this service. Krishna says in Srimad Bhagavatam, which service is most pleasing to him?
Chanting.
Which service is most pleasing? Chanting is the most pleasing and also beneficial for us. Well, what's the most pleasing service to Krishna? Huh?
Serving his devotees.
Serving his devotees. He says, when you serve me, I'm very happy. But when you serve my devotees, I am even more happy. That is gratitude. And we see there's a great opportunity for us to try to follow this opera. It's a great chance. We see, I know this happens every Janmashtami. Every Janmashtami, there is unlimited number, and it's very wonderful, cooks cooking for Krishna, making so many offerings. But when it comes to cooking for the devotees, making the feast, not so many. Very hard, very difficult. Okay? So we can see how we can imbibe this mood of Krishna, that serving for the pleasure of Krishna, not for our own, status or position, making ourselves available, and serving in the mood of humility. And in that way, Krishna will reciprocate beyond compare. So that is our great opportunity, not only in Rathyatra, but in all festivals, in all opportunities. And every day we can render service. But of course on these festivals they are accentuated. So tomorrow we'll be discussing at our picnic many opportunities to render service as we prepare for Lord Jagannath's grand. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada. Any questions, comments, discussion? Yes.
Really, in this wonderful pastime, the position of Rathyatra is a king. So, the humility is like when a king sweeps the street, it is seen as a humility, humble mood. But when the Lord reciprocate, if there is his position is a sweeper itself. But if his mood is to clean the path for Krishna, then when the Lord reciprocate, how this humility is, because in a movie like position is high and doing this, but if his job itself is sweeper.
Humility is not just the possession of those with possessions, those with wealth. A street sweeper can be humble in sweeping the streets and not lamenting, why Krishna you made me so poor, why Krishna you made me in this position, I'm sweeping your street, but you could have done better, you were unfair to me. But instead the street sweeper is thinking, wow, you've given me 2 hands and 2 legs that I can use in your service in such a wonderful way. Thank you, I'm grateful. Just like Golovecha Srila, who was not a king. He was crying in the middle of the night because he was stomach pains or hunger. Not really. That's what the neighbors thought. But he was so poor. Yet, what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reciprocated with him. Every day coming and haggling with him. And said, and Kulavajra Sridhar asked, just you do this for the rest of my life and I'll be happy. So yes, one does not require an illustrious position to be humble. We should be humble in regardless of whatever position we are in. If we have lots, we should know who is the source of it. If we have little, we should know who is our protector and provider. Doesn't matter. Humility simply means having an accurate understanding of who I am. I am part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. I am an insignificant servant, yet with a very steep relationship with the Supreme Lord. So yes, humility can be in all walks of life, even the street sweeper.
Thank you.
And again, humility is not external. Let me put a suit and tie on and then sweep the streets. Humility is here. It's not here. It is here. That is humility. And that is what Krishna sees. We all hear this. But Krishna hears this. which is good and bad, right? We can't trick him. But he also knows. And so remember, whatever we do, sometimes we let external circumstances. King Prataparudra was told no, 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 no. But did he give up? He didn't care. No, I'll still sleep. He could have said, my Lord is not going to see me while I was asleep. No. Remain determined. Don't let external factors dampen your mood of devotion. That is, we are the only losers in that scenario. You say, I'm not doing this, or I'm not. We are losing. Don't lose that opportunity to love with the Lord. Due to
Can
some
I ask
action.
you a question?
Yes.
So I maybe I don't have a context, but I don't understand why he was not willing to meet the king when he met him only when he started sweeping the floors. So why?
So, like this Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu specifically is coming in a mood to show us the example. So, it is not that kings are bad. That is not the purport. The point is that when we associate with very materially oriented persons, we're naturally going to develop those same desires, right? Prabhupada was asked, how do I become a great devotee? And he said, well, if you want to be a drunkard, you associate with drunkards. And if you want to be a great devotee, you associate with great devotees. So the point is that the association that we maintain is very important. Because in the midst of material opulences, we become distracted from our real position, which is servant of the Lord. We become illusioned by my wealth, my fame, my beauty, and all of the things, and the senses go wild. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us that when we bring ourselves in that association, it is virtually impossible. Of course, he himself was not, he could associate with anyone, and it would only purify them, and he would have no. But in our state, we are not so strong and pure that we should be very careful. So he's making an example that we should be very, very careful with our association. So, and the point is, we should not be, okay, actually I'm going to avoid rich people, I'm going to avoid these kind of people, I'm going to avoid, no. Meaning that we should seek association of people who are devotees. Because that will help us in our process of devotional service. Just like if I want to be a good tennis player, I'm going to associate with people who play tennis. If I associate with people who sit on the couch all day, then I'm never going to become good at playing tennis. So we do it in our material life too. Right? So the point that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is making is that one should be mindful, and generally speaking, there are always exceptions, like in the case of King Prataparudra. One in a very opulent position is more likely to be influenced by others. So we should be careful. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives us many examples. Pundarik Vidyadeva, who he tells Gadadhar Pandit, you take initiation from, who was also very opulent. So, we have to take in context. So it's a nice clarifying question. Yeah, keep going.
So how can you create more devotees if you're not meeting somebody who's not a devotee?
Yeah, good point. So association means that we take inspiration from, right? So when we are going out and preaching and sharing, to your point, we are not taking, but we are giving. So in Rathyatra, we'll go out and we'll meet thousands and thousands of people for weeks to come. Today and tomorrow, we have a big festival in Farmington Hills. We're meeting so many people who don't have any idea who Lord Jagannath is. So we're going out and meeting them and giving them flyers and inviting them to Lord Jagannath's Rathyatra. Right? So in that mood, we are giving association, but we are being careful not to become inspired. Oh, they're walking around and drinking a beer and having, we be careful not to become inspired by those activities. So in that way, we can share this knowledge, without becoming. So association doesn't mean physical, just I don't go to work because nobody in my office is now a devotee, so I can't go to work. No, that's not that. But we be mindful not to become inspired, because those activities will deter us from, our main goal. That make sense?
Thank you.
Thank you. You had a question?
Yes, I was going to ask, where does chanting fit in with this? I know that service to devotees and to cows are very important. I always thought chanting was the greatest service.
Chanting is the core of our devotional practice, right? So Harinam, 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 Kevalam, Kevalam, Nisheva, 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 Nisheva. So one can perfect everything by very, very good chanting. So everything else we do in devotional service is to bring purity and potency to our chanting. So when we render service to the devotees, it enthuses our chanting. When we render service to Krishna and Lord Jagannath's Rathyatra, it enthuses. When we read Srila Prabhupada's books, it enthuses our. So when we come into Bhakti Vriksha, it enthuses our chanting. Everything that we do is like a hub and spoke. The center is this chanting. But if we, Prabhupada would say, don't think you can go to the forest and just chant. There are enough monkeys in the forest, he said. Because we are not pure. We must stay engaged in practical devotional service. Because we have not yet achieved the state of the likes of Haridas Thakur, who had this great, position of Namacharya. So the chanting is the core of our sadhana. And I can take that example further, like, sometimes on festivals, we get in bed so much service that our chanting falters. So we should maintain our sadhana. We should chant our rounds nicely and then do our services. So we should not also overdo and impacting the core of our services. And one other comment I'll make, we see this mood repeatedly in devotee, in Chaitanya Caritamrita. It's one of the most powerful points for us in our bhakti. When King Prataparudra was massaging the feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the associates had then gathered in this garden and were seated on the floor around this elevated platform. And they were watching this very sweet exchange between King Prataparudra and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was ecstasy. And Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami very importantly points out that all the devotees, what was their mood?
Happy.
They were in ecstasy. They were so ecstatic and happy to see King Prataparudra receiving such mercy from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But we know, if we are truly introspective about ourselves, maybe there'll be a small tinge of, why not me? Right? But you'll see this throughout Chaitanya Caritamrita. That when a devotee is receiving special mercy from the Lord, the other devotees become happy and ecstatic. There is no envy, no jealousy. No, don't they know they didn't do this and didn't do that, and a long list that comes out of their disqualification. But instead, they become ecstatic, thinking, wow, how fortunate this person is. When Rupa and Sanatana Goswami meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we see this similar description, where all the devotees went into ecstasy, seeing someone else receiving mercy. So we should also try to inculcate this mood, that when someone is receiving great mercy, we should celebrate and welcome that, and not harbor resentment or envy in our hearts with that. Because this is the mood that again will allow us to actually taste the sweetness of bhakti. There is unlimited service to Krishna. So put the elbows away. No need to elbow anybody out for my service. There's plenty for everyone. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
So in the beginning you said about spiritual world and how
these festivals are the glimpse of spiritual. We also know some of the festivals like Govardhan Puja and even Janmashtami is celebrated in spiritual world. How about Rathyatra? Is there any reference or is there anywhere mentioned that like they do Rathyatra in there?
Well, they don't celebrate Janmashtami in the spiritual world because Krishna doesn't appear; he's always there. But they,
Pastimes, I'm saying.
the pastimes actually the devotees come to the material world to experience that specific pastime. But Rathyatra, in essence, is a mood of separation between us and Krishna. This Vipralamba Seva. Right? That is really the inner essence of Rathyatra is when Krishna's greatest devotee was at her greatest pain of separation from Krishna. And that is actually the highest ecstasy. We cannot imagine that. And Sanatana Goswami describes this, how is this pain of separation ecstasy? How is that? He says, like if you put an ice cube and you put it on your skin, at sometimes it feels hot, right? It's burning, but it's ice. And so like that. I haven't heard of any specific reference of Rathyatra festival taking place, but you also know, all the pastimes take place both in the spiritual world and in the material world. So it must be, if not exactly this, some form of it, some element of it, where one is experiencing this love. Yeah.
When there's a chant, sometimes when we do devotional service, now doing devotional service, but then sometimes you get so occupied with that, then the code of chanting is being done, but at the same time, vis-a-vis compared to somebody else, or I know we're not comparing, but vis-a-vis an option available that one could have done more chanting and more reading, but you end up doing more of the service, and the days go by that way. Then when we can't start thinking, is that the right thing to do, or should we just cut down on that and try to do more of reading and chanting? But then the service is also being, so how do you
it's not a one size fits all. It's really like when we go to the doctor, they prescribe medicine based on our situation, right? So similarly, what's right for us might be right for somebody else and vice versa. So it's always important, don't compare. This person's doing 6 services, I'm doing 3, or vice versa. I'm doing 9 and this person's doing 6. We should never compare, because Krishna is looking at, again, the ingredient that we all cannot see, which is what is the love that's being done in those services, right? So we should not compare ourselves to anyone, but we should simply do our best, and we should not lament. So there's 2 aspects to this, and you have to carry them kind of equally in both hands. It's not always easy to do, but just try. So we do our services, and we should do them to the best of our ability. But we should know if they don't work out, Krishna is not going to lose. Krishna is fully self-satisfied. He has everything. But at the same time, we should know Krishna has everything. I don't have to do anything. No. We should put forth our greatest effort. Okay? But not stress about the results. Just enjoy the service. If it happens, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, it won't. But don't let that also let us become lazy by not doing, Krishna will do everything. Right? So in the same regard, when we do services, sometimes there's a mood of, someone else will do this, or I'm not going to, Krishna has enough servants. On the other hand, there's another mood, which is, I have to do all these services because if they don't, nobody has, the whole festival will fall apart. Right? So we have to find that kind of medium, right? That balance. And that's where it takes maybe a little bit more, one-on-one, discussion where we can understand where it's times and, like in certain festival seasons, like, we may be engrossed and then, our reading may come down a little bit. And so that's natural. And then, we know, okay, after that festival, I take a different role in other festivals. And so then I can, pick back up and, we should share the bliss, with everyone. And, but the service should not come to the point where it's stressful, or it's like, I feel like I'm overwhelmed, and it should be, again, blissful. Enjoy the service, and we enjoy it when we, detach from the results, because actually in this service it's the best. If it works or not doesn't matter. All I should stress about is that I do my best. That I honestly do my best. That is what we should stress about. We should not stress about whether it happens or not. You're doing a very important service right now, which is like very black and white. Does the ad come or not? And you've been a pillar of champion of this service. But if we weren't successful in getting the ad, doesn't matter. What we should lament is how many calls did I make? How much effort did I put in getting it? If they come or not doesn't matter. But did I put my effort in making it? That's like what we should internally try to worry for. Whether they come or not, no problem. We go out in marketing and we're handing out flyers and we worry, are people actually going to come to this festival? That's between them and Krishna. Our job is simply to show them Lord Jagannath on the flyer and change their life forever. Whether they come or not, my job is to present it in the best possible light and let it happen. Today, so much effort was put to get this one booth. So much effort, and it rained. It's Krishna's plan. It's Lord Jagannath's plan. We did our part, right? Whoever, done. But it didn't work out. So tomorrow will be another day. It might pour tomorrow. It's not supposed to, right? 0% chance of rain tomorrow for the picnic. Who knows? It won't rain, according to the forecast. So please come. But, so that's, and, again, don't overdo it, don't underdo it. And a little bit of that requires some, adjustment and, we have this phenomenon when you're really good at service, you get more services. that's a worldwide organizational issue, and that's also a ISKCON issue. That's a universal scenario. When you're good at what you do, you get. Keep it to the point where it's not stressful, where you can enjoy the service, and try to do as much as you can, reasonably, without compromising, other important things, your job, your family, things like that. That one, please. Okay? Anything else? Yeah?
Bhakti Lata. Why always Bhakti is compared to the creeper?
Why?
Why it is delicate?
It's delicate because we are delicate. We have to be, you can be 20 years in devotional service, you can be 100 years in devotional service, but if you choose to, perform, as an example, Vaishnava Prad, you can destroy it all in an instant. Right? That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, mad elephant. You can take years and years to grow a beautiful garden, but a mad elephant in that garden can destroy it in a few seconds. So similarly, the garden of bhakti in our heart, if we decide to perform certain actions, can destroy it. So we should not think, that, I'm now first initiated, I'm now second initiated, I'm now this, I've read, Chaitanya Caritamrita Madhya Lila, I can read it backwards now, I'm good. That doesn't exist. It's a creeper. It's always fragile. So we should protect it. And Srila Prabhupada said the difference between, one disciple asked him, what's the difference between you and I? And he said, I cannot fall down, but you can. And later that day, when he was praying very intensely to the deities, Srila Prabhupada was, the devotee asked him, what were you praying for? And Prabhupada said, I was praying to Krishna, don't let me fall down. And the devotee said, wait a minute, you told me earlier today you could not. He's like, now you know why. I am a creeper too. So we should be mindful that bhakti is an opportunity, it is a privilege. We pray to Tulsi Maharani, please give me the privilege of devotional service. Sometimes we think, oh, I have to do this service, I have to do. It is a privilege. You cannot go do service in the White House. If you did, you would tell all your friends, I get to go to the White House. Right? So it's a privilege. But it's, don't think your seniority and gives you any leg up. Okay? We have to constantly protect it. So that's why it's called a creeper. Because a tree, we know, when it's young, we have to protect it. Once it grows to a certain, we don't need a fence around it because it's strong to stand on its own. Bhakti always needs the protective fence of association. Always needs. And there are many pastimes in Chaitanya Caritamrita about that also. Krishna Kala Krishna is one example.
Is it because of our conditioning in this material world?
Yeah.
Or
The power of the material world. That the pure devotee cannot fall down.
So is it compared to creeper even in the spiritual world?
Well, in the spiritual world, the creeper continues to grow into the spiritual world. There's no destructive forces. And it's purity. So even if it is a creeper, there's no scissors to cut it. There's no offenses. There's no dangerous forces to your bhakti. So it's an eternal state. It becomes fixed. This creeper example Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives, it's coming up towards the end of Madhya Lila. He explains it in great detail. It's a wonderful chapter. Anything else? Shall we chant? Thank you very much. Prabhupada ki jai. Jai.